All right, here we go. Seattle Sports Weekly. I'm Oz Viamara, and welcome back, and welcome to the new ones that are watching this show. A lot of good things happening in the Seattle sports scene these days. The Seahawks are winning. Sounders kind of doing their thing. And then, of course, I'll get right to it, the Seattle Mariners. So here we are with the Seattle Mariners since 2021. They are in the American League Division, ALDS. They will be hosting the winner of the Guardians and Angels. And those games start out Saturday and Sunday, right? But what starts today is the Guardians and the Tigers. That is the Cleveland Guardians, Detroit Tigers, and they're in the wild card series. So best of three. And I'm going to go over kind of that interesting thing because Cleveland, excuse me if you will, Tigers had a lead of 15 and a half games over the Guardians. The Detroit had a 15 and a half lead. Yeah, there you go. And so Cleveland goes 20-7 in September. Detroit goes 7-17 during the same period. And that's why you find, because both of these teams are in the AL Central, where they're 1-2. And just quite interesting dynamic that's going there. So these teams know each other and they've played each other, well, obviously quite a bit. And as I said, so those games will start today, best of three. So they will play at Cleveland today. And then Wednesday, they are at, the first two games are Cleveland, I should say. Actually, all three games can't be. Sure enough, Detroit at Cleveland, Detroit at Cleveland, Detroit. Unbelievable. That's how they're doing it. I guess so. I'm looking at the other one, the NL Wildcard Series as well, and that's San Diego and Chicago, and all three games are at Chicago. Kind of unfair. I don't know. That's weird to me. So Boston, it's a best of three. What am I saying? That's right. So, yeah, if they win the first two games, that is just unreal. And then the Boston New York Yankees series. Again, all these are playing today. And then they will NL Wildcard Series as well. Cincinnati is at LA. And for three games there. LA Dodgers that were just here. I don't know if you got a chance to see that series, but Dodgers took care of business against the Mariners, and that's okay. It could be potential World Series match up there. And then in the other playoff, the other two rounds, you've got, the LDL then would be Toronto Blue Jays would host the winner of the Yankees and Boston series. And in the NLDS, the Philadelphia Phillies would host the winner of the NLDL. So that would be an interesting one there. And then what do you got? NLDS and the Milwaukee Brewers would host the next series there, the winner. And then, of course, as I said, we turn it right back around. So the Mariners will then host the winner of those. So baseball is in full bloom, as you can see there. And it's just a real good time to be a Mariner fan, I would say. And just going back to the wild cards, just look at that. But the most interesting storyline that's happening right now in Seattle, from a logistical perspective, is what's going to happen on Sunday. Because now the Mariners play on Saturday. There is no conflict unless you're Seattle U. Well, your Seattle U's got a game at 7, and then the Sounders play, and we'll talk a little bit more about them in a moment. And those are both night games. So the Mariners would play a day game on Saturday. Fine, you could do double dip however you want to go. You could go to you go to the Mariners, and then you head off to SU, or you go to the what? You go over to the Sounders game. And they got a big one. Again, I'll talk about that because they're hosting Portland Timbers. But on Sunday, that's the issue. The Seahawks right now are scheduled to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 1:25. The Mariner game, in all intended purposes, is going to supposed to be during the day. So right now, Major League Baseball and the NFL kind of working. It's actually baseball gets the first crack at this. So uh, nobody really knows right now except those people in the New York offices that are trying to logistically figure this out. My point is this: they can't have a Mariner game at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and a Seahawks game at 1:25. No, that just does not work for the infrastructure of Seattle. The few towns, maybe New York, you could probably pull it off. Maybe Boston, maybe LA, but it's just because of the vicinity, right? Like, how would you get 64,000 people, and then another 74? I mean, it just doesn't work. So, what's going to most likely happen? Tea leaves we read here. It's going to be they're probably going to move the Seahawks game back a couple hours. And that's what the prevailing wisdom is now. And the reason is you obviously can't move the games to a different day, that being the NFL. And with the NFL game day, like in most game days, but it starts early. So you can't really move the Seahawks game, let's say 10 a.m. start, because then that would mean the players would, you know, they normally are 6 hours into their game day routine, logistic wise and everything else. So not really. So what you're looking at, what, 6 a.m. So that just wouldn't go, and that would cut into their Saturday walkthrough. So most likely the Seahawks game will probably be moved 2.5 hours after the Mariner game, which is kind of cool if you're a sports person, because then you can go to the Mariner game and then just walk across the street and head over to the Seahawks game. So we will wait and see on that. So, as I said, so who should the Mariner fans root for? Well, I'd probably take the Detroit team that went 7-17 over a Cleveland team that went 20-17 in September. As I said, yeah. But at this stage, the Mariners are legit, and really, what you want to do is concentrate on you know you take care of business for the Mariners, and there's just no doubt that the Mariners have down the stretch been one of the best teams. And let me not be remiss that actually tomorrow you can actually go and watch. The Mariners have these public scrimmages, so you can actually go to tomorrow 2 p.m. Yeah, you can get over there and you can watch the Mariners scrimmage and T-Mobile Park, and then also on Thursday at 5 p.m. So the Mariners are having these opportunity for the fans to come out, public scrimmages, and these were the two teams. Uh, Players were divided into two teams, obviously, and then they will just play a regular season game. And part of this is twofold. I mean, it's a PR move, obviously. Well done, Seattle Mariners. I like that. Keep the fans engaged, but also it's to keep the team so you don't sit around for a couple of days. So there's an opportunity for you Mariner fans to go out and see the Mariners play in a scrimmage game again Wednesday, the 1st. tomorrow 2 p.m. and then Thursday at 5 p.m. So it gives you kind of a an opportunity to go there. All right, so that is, and I think tickets still available. I think you can hop on there and get some tickets. I will find out for you right now as we speak to see if tickets are still available. And tickets are available. So you can still buy tickets right now. You can just go over to the Mariners, MLB.com, Mariners. Just go Seattle Mariner playoff tickets, right? And there you go. And again, that game is Saturday, and the next one is Sunday. So get out there, buy your tickets. I don't know how much the tickets are, but as you know, with these things, you want to go in there and buy from Ticketmaster or whoever it is, Booking.com. It looks like these days. Well, and then get your tickets. Without having to get them secondary from the market. You never want to get them secondary, especially playoff tickets. That's just a no-no. That's not a good investment on your it's not a good investment on your money, I would say. All right, so I'm going to kind of flip here, and we're going to talk the Seattle Sounders. And but before I do that, let me I'll go to the announcements in a minute here. Well, no, let me do the announcements now as we switch. So later today, join us for political coverage for this year's election on Rainier Avenue Radio with a live interview at 3 p.m. on at 3 p.m. on Rainier with U.S. Senator candidate Kashma Sawant. Oh, she's Sawant. One one on Rainier, one quarter. I saw him on my way to Husky game the other day. Good man. We're just chit chatting about all the good stuff at Rainier Avenue Radio. So it's Juan Cotto, followed later, as I said, conversation with Seattle Community Police Commission at 5 p.m., hosted by CPC Executive Director IC Amir and Tony B on the community concerns about surveillance and cameras. That sounds like something to tune into. I never know whether one is it a good thing or a bad thing to have those cameras in there. And I won't give you my opinion because that it could be political, but it doesn't really matter. This is a sports show and we talk sports. So let's roll over to the Seattle Sounders, who are currently, right now, the Seattle Sounders are fifth in the Western Conference playoffs. Congratulations, the Sounders. They won. I mean, they're in the playoffs. They've only missed the playoffs once in their history of their franchise, which is a good thing. Right now, they're in a bit of a tailspin in that they have not won in their last four games. They've lost two and they've tied two. And the latest one was to the Vancouver Whitecaps, who are second in the MLS conference standings. Now, why does that matter? Because top 8 teams go into playoffs, and the Sounders had been battling for the fourth spot. But right, as I said, they're fifth. Right now, they're 46 points. LAFC has 43. And Austin FC's got 44. And guess who has? Yeah, you know this. The Portland Timbers. Big game on Saturday. And so going back to the thought there, when you're the fifth seed, when you're the fourth seed, you host the second round. If you're the fifth seed, you're going to. It's a best of three, and you're going to go on the road. And so I would say the Sounders have kind of uh, they let it slip away. I mean, the inconsistency down the stretch here, as I said, the last four games, but they're still in play. What they got to do now is make sure that they beat Portland. And so against Vancouver, it was a really interesting game, a big game, a game that they could have had, and they just couldn't. I mean, 11 minutes into the game, the Sounders have an injury. Alex Rodin, their left back, goes down, and then Kalani Kosa Rienzi steps in. And then also for the Sounders, I mean, minutes later, into the game. You get another injury, and this one was Yamar, your center back, goes down as well. So, I mean, within the first 20 minutes of the game, you've now had to replace your your left back and also your center back. So two of your four defenders go down in this all important game, and this was very interesting. So Kim Key comes in at center back to replace Yema, and also Casarienzi comes in and he replaces Alex Rodan on the fly. So I had an exclusive interview with Casarienzi after the game, and here's kind of what he said just in terms of when you're called upon to come in and play in an emergency situation. All right, D Money, can we get that video? And so we're gonna that uniqueness of that position because let me start over. There we go.
Obviously, I'm there for Alex if ever anything happens to him. So I'm always kind of watching him and seeing how he's doing, because there's been times throughout the year where he picks up little things, and like sometimes I'm like looking at him, I'm like, I might have to go in, I might not, but like just gotta get in that mindset of like there's a chance I get subbed in at any second right now, so. Got to get ready for that. When he started calling for it, that's when I was like, all right, here we go. Now I'm really getting in. Like you said, it's always tough at the start because like you can't plan like, okay, I'm going to sub in the 10th minute because of this injury. But what you can do for me is like, if I'm starting, it's like, all right, you're prepared to play the whole game. If I'm not starting, it's like, all right, you're probably not subbing in right away, but on the off chance that something happens, I got to be ready for that. And for me, it's more of just like getting in the right headspace for that. So on the bench, like, and I like to talk with people and socialize, and like I don't do well when I'm just like ultra focused on the game type of thing. So obviously I'm watching and everything, but I'm also like we're talking about the game and like talking about the way people are moving and the way the game is going and everything, and that kind of helps me get in the mindset already. So if something like this does happen, then I'm like, all right, I've already been talking about it, I've been watching, I know how the movements are going, I know how the flow's going. Now it's a matter of me just getting in there and getting my first couple of touches right, especially when you get subbed in like that. I think the biggest thing for me is connect the first couple passes, because obviously, like sitting on the bench, you haven't touched the ball, and when you are warming up to go in, you get to run a little bit, so your legs get ready, everything. But sitting there, your legs kind of cool down as well. So for me, it's like, all right, and people know too. It's hard to sub in a game like that, so people aren't going to get mad at you if you make a little mistake right away or something, because it's tough to sub in. But yeah, like I said, for me it's just like trying to connect the first couple passes, not do anything too crazy when I first get in, just be simple and sharp.
And the other team knows you just came in,
right?
So there's a tendency to maybe they're not going to change everything, but they're going to go, hey, we got somebody who's not warmed up.
And especially early in the game like that, like everybody's fresh, everybody's going, so the more simple I play, the better it's going to be for the team as a whole, and the harder it's going to be for them, versus if I go in there and try to do all types of stuff, then that's when they're going to get the advantage, and I'm not necessarily fully ready to go yet. So it's finding that balance.
That uniqueness of that position, because, especially the way that Brian wants you all to play. Yeah. You're pressing up, but you're also playing defense. Tell me about that balance and what,
Yeah, it's interesting because throughout the year we've also played a lot of different systems where we've played a 5-back, we've played a 4-back. There's times where I become a 10, there's times where I become a winger, there's times where I become a 6. So it's like there's a lot of different movements and interchange between all those kind of positions in there, between the right back, the winger, the pocket, the 6. And I mean, like you said, finding the balance of just like, I can't go too high when we have the ball on this side, because if we lose it, then I got a 50-yard sprint and this winger's already got 20 yards on me. So I got to be able to cover, but then at the same time, if we do get out and I'm the outlet, I got to be able to get up the wing and attack. So finding that balance of like the in-between space between playing on the highest line
Mm-hmm.
where their back line is, but then also when the time is right, checking down so I can come in as an option. And then that's where our communication in this game, me and Jesus, has to be really good, where one of us goes, one of us stays, one of us breaks, one of us checks, that kind of thing.
Uh, they score 1-0. You guys scored. You get
Yeah.
two back, and then obviously they score another one.
Yeah.
Fair result, 2-2 here.
Yeah.
And what can you take away from this going into another rivalry game?
Yeah,
Coming?
I mean, this is one of those games where, like, on one hand, you can look at all the negatives and this and that, but on the other, it's like, it's pretty even. Like, we can complain about the ref, this, that, but like, we got up for our chances, they got up for theirs. Smets talked about it after the game. He was like, look, the stats are almost dead even, duels, challenges, shots, all that kind of stuff. So on one hand, it's like we gotta do better, but on the other, it's like, this is like, and it's coming down to the wire too. We only got a couple games left in the season. Everybody's fighting for playoffs, so it's like these feel like playoff games, and in the playoffs, it's not necessarily the better team that comes out on top. It's whoever wants it more. So I think that's something that we need to start looking at, is just like, hey, we gotta kind of do whatever it takes to win these games, especially getting on to that playoff road.
Right.
All right, so there you go. Kalani Kasarienzi, up and coming. There's just no doubt about that. And it's interesting. He's in one of those where he's on the Sounders bench and he starts comes off, but he's also a Tacoma Defiance player. So he plays for the Tacoma Defiance, which is the Sounders kind of like their feeder team, if you will. No, I mean, can't really find a better way to say that, but so he played for the Defiance on the 21st. 6 days later, he's there for the Whitecap. I mean, he's in the Whitecaps game as a substitute, but he also started down in Miami when the Sounders lost 3-1, and he saw 29 minutes. Was started also for the Galaxy before that in the Galaxy game, 59 minutes, and then Sounders in the Leagues Cup win over the Miami, the famous win for the Sounders, and they get that trophy. But overall, just my take on the Sounders right now, they do need to get it right, and we're missing practice, but we'll give you kind of some updates in terms of the injuries to Rodan, because obviously that's going to be important, and also Yamar. Brian Smetzer is talking to the media as we speak. We can't go live because it's, I wonder, I'll have to double check and see if they do that video live, but I think it's on YouTube, and then we'll have updates for you. You can go to cascadiasports.net. There'll be a story up there just on today's practice. But yeah, it really is about, they've got 3 games left. As I said at the top here, Portland, your rivalry, and then you got Real Salt Lake, and then you finish off in New York. And I gave you the scenarios of the points, but what has to happen, right? I mean, you can talk about really the first thing. I think the most important thing is here, the midfield. And that is going to be Orbit Vargas, who has started with Christian Rodan, and who's about as good as any player right now playing in MLS. He's playing for the Mexico U20. So the under 20, for the under 20, they're having the World Cup under 20 right now, and Obed Vargas was called up for the Mexican national team, and they tied Brazil yesterday 2-2. And he played. He was subbed out at the 64th minute, which is fine. So now the interesting thing about that is how far the Mexican team goes. Is they have group games until Saturday, October the 4th. So this Saturday, right? So that's their next game. And so the key there is, if the Mexican national team advances to the next round, then that means Vargas will not be available for the Sounders. And I talked about that just in terms of they need him. That is, the Sounders do. if they're going to go make this playoff run. So he won't be available for Saturday's game with, obviously, he's going to be available for Saturday's game. So then you begin to take a look at, okay, when would Vargas return if in terms of for the Sounders? Well, as I said, they've got a game they got one tomorrow, and then they've got one on Saturday. Tomorrow, Mexico plays Spain. And then on Saturday, they play Morocco. And so depending on where they're at, because right now, if you take a look at the standings, Mexico's in the Group C. Morocco, Mexico, Brazil, and Spain. Yes, Spain, Brazil, Mexico, Morocco. I mean, you couldn't add, that is a group of death, I would tell you. Each tournament does. So, again, Obed Vargas is getting all this prime time, and they will need him back. So the hope is, that he plays his last game for the Mexican national team. But you can't wish ill will on him and his team. So who knows? The other one, Reed Baker Whiting, also is gone, and he'd be interesting. Maybe he plays on the right back, but he's another. He plays left back behind Nuhu. So, and he's gone and playing for the U.S. national team, for the U.S. under-20, and they won yesterday. So up next is France, and then they will, and then they also finish on Saturday, the U.S. men's national team. So under-20, if you will. So both of these guys could come back by Saturday, but it just depends, again, how they go. So Sunday, U.S. South Africa plays the United States. So that would be if the U.S. continues. Let me see where they are on the table here. And there they are. So the U.S. obviously is number one in that group, and they've got France, which is a tough game. South Africa, and then New Caledonia is the other one there. So that kind of gives you an idea. And the Sounders need both of those players back, and it would be brilliant. Well done. So they need both of those guys back. And the other thing is Brian has to figure out, what are you going to do with your front five? You have Jordan Morris there, who started against Vancouver, but then he was off. Yeah. He was taken off, substituted for Danny Musovski, who actually has scored more goals than anybody in the Sounders this season. But Morris is your all-time leading scorer for the Sounders. So that's a decision to be made. And then also Paul Rothrock on the wing. Jesus Ferreira, if you will. Albert Rusnek. Pedro de la Vega. And those are all players that, you can't play all of them. So Brian has to figure out how he's going to play that lineup. And something that he alluded to was that he possibly could go to a 4-4-2. Right now they play a 4-2, and then the rest is up there. So 4-6, right, and then the other four up there. So if he goes to a 4-4-2, then he could put Musovski and Jordan Morris in there, and then then your midfield could probably, you're looking at Vargas, you're looking at Christian Roldan, then you're looking, Obed Vargas. Vargas, Roldan, and then Rothrock, or you probably go with Rusnek and Jesus Ferreira as your 4. And then Rothrock would come off the bench. So, again, decisions, and Brian Smetser's got to get it right, because, as I said, 3 more games. You got to get your starting 11 to find rhythm and pace as you roll into the playoffs. All right, speaking of rolling, we're going to roll into the break, and we will talk Seahawks, and then we'll talk UW Huskies. All right, for Rainier Avenue Radio, this is Seattle Sports Weekly. I'm Osvita Meyer.
Gentlemen, Beat up Seattle. We are RainierAvenueRadio.world, the station that cares.
Love food? Here's some storage tips to keep it fresh longer. Store cut fruits and vegetables in the fridge. Place in reusable containers. Keep bread in the freezer for longer storage. 40% of food in the U.S. goes uneaten. Save money, save food, save the planet. Visit Seattle Public Utilities for more tips.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at yung local Filipino community, Phil Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in, Phil Radio, every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on RainierAvenueRadio.world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
What do you get when culture, climate, and community collide? You get Earth Deserves More Than a Day. Rainier Avenue Radio and King County Park stew down with a week of real talk, real people, and real solutions. This ain't your average Earth Day. Tune in and feel the energy because the movement is now.
Welcome to the Fitness Corner. I'm your host, Mark Bryant, and you're going to get a whole total body workout on my show, starting off with a warm-up, aerobics, strength training, cool down, and stretching every Friday from 11:30 to 12 right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.
This is a Rainier Avenue Radio message. Fentanyl awareness in our community.
Do we get community members connected to training with CPR and test strips and that education in our communities? How do we make sure that community is able to get the resources they need? The city has a lot of investment. You'll see that the Orca Center and the Morrison Hotel will be coming online soon. For people who do experience overdose, there is a place for them to go to in downtown Seattle. The auditor just released a report on suggestions that the city can do, and we are reading and taking all the suggestions and looking at ways we could implement these. So I believe it's the city, the county also has crisis centers that will be coming online.
This has been a Rainier Avenue Radio message on fentanyl in our communities. Rainier Avenue Radio.
We are back on Seattle Sports Weekly, second half hour, I should say, of the hour. And thank you all for joining and riding along and staying. Another beautiful day. You know what? I like the fall, and I'm the stutter, the stop there, and the pause was because I love these days because yesterday you saw the rain, and then you kind of get the light, the sunshine, if you will, on a different day. But there's no doubt about it. It is that time of the year. The leaves are falling. There, you can see the brownness in them, and we're getting towards Halloween, which you know what? It's funny. The Halloween, right? Some people think it's great. Others, not so much, right? For me, Halloween, I don't really celebrate it like I used to, is the only adult holiday there is. Think about it. I mean, it's the only one where adults actually kind of, yeah, sure, there's New Year's Eve and all those things, but it's the only one that adults really get out there. The kids are trick-or-treating, and I get it. They're in costume too, but when else do you see grown men, women, and whatnot, all dressed up in funkiness? Halloween. I've always said that it's the true um, adult holiday. Now, I get it. I get it. For some, the whole demons and all those things are, a no thank you very much. And fair enough. I probably sit more on the only reason I like horror movies, not gross, not gruesome, but I do like me a well crafted, well written horror movie. I don't like the slasher stuff and I don't like too much blood. But Frankenstein, Dracula, the werewolf, all those things, I love those movies. Yeah. Well, be no fool. I'll sit down and some popcorn and watch me, Dracula or something like that, or oh, what other movies are there? I'm trying to think. Yeah, Halloween the movie itself, Freddy Krueger, all those things I think are pretty cool. But I like to keep it in perspective. And that's what happens when you read Stephen King books all the time. You kind of get into that. But again, I don't like the gory, and I don't like too much blood, and I don't like the people getting trapped in a room and in a box and all that. I'm like, nah. Give me a well written plot that moves along. And so there you go. Next week we'll come up with some movies, and there you go. The all time best Halloween movies. Mm, there you go. A couple more reads here. So live, do not forget this Friday on Rainier Avenue Radio. We're featuring Franklin. We've got Metro League High School, and it's Franklin 1 and 2 and West Seattle 3 and 0, live from the Southwest Complex. Rankings for Max Prep. I would be remiss if I didn't touch on what in the world is going on with Garfield High School. I got to reach out, see if those guys will come on. But right now, yes, there is discussions. People are wondering what's going on. A couple of days ago, Brandon Roy, former Garfield High School, University of Washington legend, Portland Trailblazer coach, was relieved of his duties as the Garfield High School basketball coach, and so was Roydale Smiley, who also went to Garfield, and he went to USC. They were both relieved of their duties by the principal and the new athletic director. And so people are wondering what is going on here, and the usual with the school district. And I've worked for organizations to where there's a central office, and so those people on the ground will say, hey, this was a personnel decision that was made from the central office, and this, that, and the other. You know what? I'm really, what am I? Shocked, bewildered, surprised, and yeah, I get it, right? Because normally what happens is somebody puts a complaint or something, or the parents, a PTSA, or there's a group that wants change. It's just how you did it. That's what really irks me, is that these are people that are out to make a difference in the lives of our youth. We don't have enough good people coaching on any level, or refing for that matter, whether it's volunteer or getting paid. Sure, Brandon, BJ went through, and BJ's over at the UW, and Roydale's, his daughter's there, and also he coached them. But they're just, it saddens me, because these are people there you go. These are people that are out trying to make a difference. Do they make mistakes? I'm sure we all make mistakes. And I'm not saying they made a mistake and they had to go. No, but for their service and what they've done to this community, I would have had a discussion and say, hey, we need to make a change. The whole resign thing, and we're not going to renew your contract. such and such. Can we do a press conference? Or maybe you say you're not returning. That's what they deserve. Now, Rodell is he's petitioning to keep his job. So that's in litigation. But, Brandon is like, I can't speak for him, but obviously he's the resources that he has, he could have lawyered up and all those kind of things. But, that's what good people do. After a while, if they get mistreated, they say, okay, I will find another way to make a difference in the community. And he has been making a difference in the community for years, and he will. And having had experience dealing with the school district and no, oh, that's right. I just remembered I'm the coach, girls, boys soccer coach at Orca. So I can't say too much middle school, K through 8, about all about the school district. That's my employer, and I also do some work for the Metro League. So, but nonetheless, the point is, it's just difficult, and there's just not enough people there that are good people. And if you don't know, Roydell Smiley took over a Garfield High School girls basketball team whose previous coach was under indictment for sexual allegations. Yeah. So he comes in and gets your program out of that, gets it back to respectability. And then this is how you treat him? Nah. I mean, some sensitivity. But, Garfield High School, there's certain schools that are just hotbeds. And, it's like Garfield Community Center and Garfield Teen Life Center. And I'm trying to think some other ones. Rainier Community Centers. I'm using Parks and Recreation sites here, but they're just so eclectic. You have so many different voices that if you're in charge of that, you have to make sure that you tend to each one of those flowers. Because if you don't put enough water, then it's going to be an issue. And you can only last there for so long. I'm going to be honest with you. You can't stay there forever. Those places are not built that way. And as I said, because of the voices that are there, because of the different factions that want, they're pushing their agenda, good or bad, you just can't sustain or maintain so many agendas all the time. So you have to kind of manage it. But if any one of them, they all have the same power, they all have direct link to administration, to people in power. And if one of them gets too riled up, it just tips the whole thing. And unfortunately, then you start again. And then you listen to that voice and you keep going. And then the one voice or the one faction that you didn't pay attention to, now they get up and they go out and use all the power, muscle, and all the connections they have. Boom, you make a change and you start again. And that's just what happens in those positions. So no more different than the AD and the superintendents. Am I making an excuse? No, not at all. But that's where the leadership has to come in. And leaders are hard to find. They've always have been in Seattle. And they've been in the world, right? Leadership is difficult. It is tough to be a leader, but it's a calling. So coaches, school administrator, class, teachers, ADs, nonprofits, even profit. So leadership. And that's really why I love sports, because you really take a look at it from a leadership perspective. It really is all about leadership. So, all right, I could go on and on and on. And I could, and I should, but I won't, because we're going to switch. And the Seahawks, well, there you go. We're not going to talk too much about them. They beat the Cardinals 23-20. And now they will take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I told you about the schedule there. And the Buccaneers are coming off a 25-31 loss to the Eagles at home. Probably the best team in the NFL right now is the Eagles. Well, they're the only undefeated team. They are the only undefeated team. So the Seahawks have their work cut out for them. Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator, will bring a lot of blitzes and it almost worked. The blitzes against the Buccaneers, they almost did. So that means we'll replay next week what happens. But a lot of the discussion this week will, when we get back to practice tomorrow, will be about how the Seahawks handle the blitz. And so Bucky Irving is one player to look for, the running back. He had 15 carries for 63 yards. And of course, Baker Mayfield will lead the Buccaneers. Brash, kind of what you want. I don't like the guy, but I'm sure he doesn't really care. I don't even know who I am. But he's kind of, whiny and I don't know, a little bit self-consumed, but he's a leader. When I talk about leaders, he is a leader. He was 22 of 40, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he did have an interception. So it's going to be a real tough battle for the Seahawks offensive line now. And also I say the tight ends, because they're going to use them to block. And Seahawks are 3-1. You get this. You win this game, 4-1. I mean, it's a long season, but it sets you up kind of nicely, if you will. All right. And speaking of setting us up nicely, we're going to do our weekly discussion with Andrew Bailey. Andrew, our University of Washington reporter who was there and he's here now. What's going on, my guy?
Not too much. Just went to the press conference yesterday, learned what Jed Fish had to say about the loss on Saturday and what he expects of his team this week against Maryland.
All right. So, yeah, what did you hear? And then tell us what he said and what he really said.
I know, right? A lot of the coach speak was, we kept it close. We fought. It was a battle. It was like the Penn State-Oregon game was. It was a battle all the way until the fourth quarter when they kind of pulled away from us, But I don't know. Was it really that close?
Yeah, you and I had go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it was 7-3 at half, but I mean, come on, Jed. I mean, the other parts of it, eventually got to it. They were 1 of 11 on third downs. It was had some issues in the red zone. Those were the negative things that they looked at. And when they looked at the film, it was like execution wise, could have been better here, could have been better there, But his whole thing was, he was excited that his young freshman, played well and didn't flinch and got some good experience in a big game. So he took some positives from that.
What are the positives that you took just overall in your observation of the game?
The fact that the secondary played as well as they did. I thought going into it, it was going to be a really tough game without Takario Davis if he didn't play, and he didn't play. So the fact that they only gave up 208 yards passing and allowed just 7.4 yards per attempt from Julian Sand, that was a good takeaway. Fish elaborated a little bit more on it yesterday, talked about how they gave Ohio State a lot of 3 safety looks. So they played McEllisteen, Alex McLaughlin, and then the freshman Rylan Dillard-Allen, who was really impressed with. They held Ohio State to 4 explosive plays. That was a big takeaway that they had. They thought they really liked that.
Was Ohio State obviously number 1 ranked team? The 4 to hold them to that. That's fair. What did you see on offense?
Offensively, I felt they could have run the ball a little bit more. I think what made that difficult, though, was Carver Willis getting hurt right before halftime. And Jonah Coleman had 70 yards rushing on 13 carries. I think if they ran the ball, they were able to run the ball a little bit more, it might have protected Damon Williams, who ended up taking 6 sacks. Not all on him. Some of it was him holding the ball, but some of his receivers just had a difficult time getting open. But another freshman who showed up there was I mean, not to change subjects, I'm not trying to, but
Go
Desmond
right
Roebuck.
ahead. It's your time. Go ahead. It's your dime.
Desmond Roebuck had a good game. He had 53 yards receiving on 4 catches. That was another one of those positive things that Fish was talking about. Freshmen showing up, playing. This is what he wants to see when he brings guys in, and he's got a good recruiting class coming in next year. So this is what he wants to see. He wants to see young guys come in, practice, play well in spring and fall in training, and be able to play in big games like this and not flinch and be able to handle the moment. And that was the biggest positive he took away, even though they had some struggles offensively in the red zone and just execution wise, trying to score touchdowns instead of field goals, that kind of thing. But overall, they'll learn from this game. They'll learn from this loss. I guess I could get to the Maryland game. There wasn't much he talked about as far as that. He said he likes the fact that they have guys who have experience playing in the Eastern time zone because they went to Penn State, Rutgers, and Indiana last year. So they feel more confident and comfortable playing in the Eastern time zone this year as opposed to last year.
Well, yeah, let's slow up there. So 6 p.m. last year, how many games did they play on the road?
In the Eastern time zone, 3, but I mean, they also said they went to Iowa, which was a central time zone. So
No. I'm sorry. Eastern time zone. How many games did they play in the Eastern time zone last week?
3. They played against Rutgers, Penn State, and Indiana in the Eastern time zone.
And what was that record?
They went 0-3. So yeah.
Okay. So okay. His assertion now, to your best, is that he's saying they've learned?
Yeah, they've gained. From playing in each of those games, they have more experience this year than they did last year, and they've learned some things about what they want to do as far as preparation wise. They're going to leave 2 days before this game instead of like a day before, like they did against Rutgers last year, I believe. And it's because of the time of the game is a 3:30 kickoff in Maryland. It's 12:30 Pacific time here, but there it's 3:30. So they feel 2 days before, getting there 2 days before makes them feel a little bit more comfortable heading into the matchup.
Now I don't know if anybody has asked this, and probably might be a good question. So they're probably going to go right. You said 2 days early. I get that. When they get there, they're going to do a walkthrough, a practice. Is that part of the deal? I mean, we don't know, but that's probably what he's thinking.
I would think so. He didn't, like they said, they didn't elaborate a whole lot on it other than talking about, what they really learned from going to Rutgers last year, because they were close to beating Rutgers when they traveled to the Eastern time zone then, and they just came up just short. They actually outplayed them pretty well. They outgained them and everything, and they felt they should have won that game.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, is he available tomorrow?
Who, Jed Fish?
Yeah.
No, he's they're only doing one press conference this week with Jed Fish. Today they're having a press conference with players and probably assistant coaches, I would assume, like they usually do. But yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Wednesday, you leave Wednesday, you get there Wednesday night. Thursday, you'll do your walkthrough. So you got so you'll go Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, Thursday. They'll leave Thursday, not doing another press conference because usually Thursday is the press conference. They're not going to do another press conference. They'll leave Thursday and then get there Thursday to Maryland. And then they'll have probably like a day to do a walkthrough, like you said, on Friday before they play their game on Saturday.
Okay. All right. We will just have to see. I mean, it all sounds good. And in terms of traveling, which is fine. What do you know about Maryland?
They're 4-0. Their best win is against Wisconsin. They're giving up about 11 points per game. So they're playing really well defensively. defensively as far as points allowed. But again, if you look at the schedule, they played Towson, Northern Illinois, and Florida Atlantic, and then Wisconsin. Their best win was against Wisconsin. They won 27-10. So, I mean, they're 4-0, but, schedule kind of is what it is.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I know you're not wearing your purple, which, I mean, the Husky schedule, fine. You kind of, right? I mean, Colorado State, and then, UC Davis, was 70-10, and then WSU was probably your, good win there. So yeah, that's the thing with college football. You just don't know these days. So, all right, fair enough. Okay, what are your thoughts on the game?
I think UW's going to be itching to get that offense going again after a really rough performance against Ohio State, where they only put up 6 points and had those struggles in the red zone. Maryland's they played good defense so far. Offensively, they just do a really good job taking care of the football. Their quarterback only has 1 interception. He has 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. Doesn't seem like they throw the ball too deep, though, from what I looked at from the stats from their quarterback. He's young, but he's good. He's been effective and efficient throwing the ball, hasn't turned it over a lot. I think he's over 1,000 yards passing, too. But they're not like super deep threading, going deep down the field, that kind of thing. Seems more like, a ball control kind of team, and really want their defense to do a good job of, keeping the other team's offense, off the field, trying to just kind of, take care of the ball. Don't turn it over. But their defense has played well. I mean, if you're giving up only 11 points or less per game, they're doing a good job of keeping opponents, out of the end zone.
Yep, they are. They have they had 1 turnover, ball control. Actually, Wisconsin had 37 minutes.
Really?
Maryland. No, just looking it over the one game, so no worries. Maryland was 4 of 14 and Wisconsin was 3 of 17, but it'll be interesting. Yeah, that's a tough day. I mean, to your point, they were. That's always kind of deceiving there. But Maryland, Malik Washington is their quarterback. It was 18 of 34 for 2 touchdowns. So it'll be an interesting. We'll just have to wait and see. Good call. Those are all good stuff, and we'll take a look at that. All right, he's Andrew Bailey, our resident Husky reporter, and so we will talk to you next week, Andrew. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right. So there we go. And now we do have to turn the corner and get going because time's up. Up next is Clean Greens. Yeah. All right. That's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Mas Vida Mario for Seattle Sports Weekly of CascadiaSports.net. D-Money, thanks for all your work. We'll see y'all next week.